Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers.
And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2025. I am Dave Bryan from SteelersDepot.com. It is Thursday, July 31st. There's football on my TV coming on tonight. Hopefully it's coming on yours as well, as the Hall of Fame game will be getting underway in a couple hours from now. It is 5:02 Eastern Time in Pittsburgh, PA, and that's where my co-host Alex Kozora is, fresh off of another trip to Saint Vincent College in Latrobe for training camp practice. And the morning practice, it was moved to the morning because of inclement weather coming in. So that was a smart move on the Steelers' part. And with all that, hello, Alex.
Hello, Dave. We're back here a little bit earlier tonight, which I like, before the Friday night lights practice. So we'll get a morning practice on Thursday, the night practice on Friday. Good day overall, not in pads today, but it was pretty chippy. It felt like a padded practice type of intensity out at Saint Vincent College on Thursday.
Yeah, instead of putting on the pads, they were putting on the foil. The old hockey term that they used to use come from the movie Slapshot, about how those guys used to prepare to fight, to put foil on their knuckles and all. But all right, we got some housekeeping to do at the top of the show, and that housekeeping starts with us shouting out our sponsor of the special edition of the Terrible Podcast during training camp. And for numerous years running, that sponsor has been Touring Plans. And you can get all your Disney vacation and travel needs handled and covered completely by going to touringplans.com. Len Testa and his fine folks over there really do a great job, and have done a great job for years. And boy, if you haven't seen their updated website lately, it looks fantastic. They've got a app to go along with it. Anything related to a Disney trip, whether it be go to any of the parks or a cruise or Epcot or any of that kind of stuff. If you want to get some deals, you want to check on how to the shorter lines, passes, whatever you might need related to a Disney trip, the fine folks over at Touring Plans have you covered. So they are on Twitter as well, at Touring Plans. And once again, you can go to the website, touringplans.com. Hopefully you have it bookmarked by now, but we do appreciate all these years of support from Len Testa and his company, Touring Plans, over the years when it comes to supporting the special edition of the Terrible Podcast.
Yeah, for sure. We really appreciate their continued support. And again, as Dave said, any Disney-related plans or trips, or just want to check in, get familiar, and maybe start mapping something out, maybe a family vacation later this year, check out the site, touringplans.com. Thank you to Len Testa, and tell them Steelers Depot sent you.
Absolutely. All right, Alex, no transactions earlier in the day. It feels like there might be a few transactions probably coming before Friday night lights. And just before we got on the podcast recap here of training camp, got word through the NFL transaction sheet that the Steelers brought in 3 defensive tackles in for tryouts on Thursday. Kyler Baugh, Justin Rogers, who people probably know that name out of Auburn, and defensive tackle Cameron Young, who I believe was drafted by the Seahawks a couple of years ago in the 4th round. So those are the 3 visitors. There are some injuries on the defensive line right now and other housekeeping, and I'll let Alex Kozora fill in the details of all that.
And the reason why Pittsburgh's bringing in and likely to sign these slew of defensive linemen is they got a bunch of those guys down. Now, Cam Hayward got the day off. That's not a surprise. That's not an issue. But you have 3 defensive linemen with knee injuries. Asazio Tomewa, who got hurt in Wednesday's practice, did not participate today. Also, Jacob Slade did not work, and Dean Lowry did not work either. Tomlin saying all 3 have knee injuries. I did see Slade. There was nothing on his knee. He seemed to get around okay, but obviously something preventing him from practicing. So Pittsburgh essentially, with Hayward included, down 4 defensive linemen today. They'll be down 3 tomorrow if none of those injured guys come back. And so a lot of those young defensive linemen, the few that are left, were really getting a ton of reps today, and Pittsburgh will probably be looking to add depth before the weekend.
Marvin Leal working with that group, I think I saw you report today.
He did late in practice getting some D-tackle work. Now, they were, I think, partially also using a 3 outside linebacker Bronco package because Jack Sawyer got some reps there. I don't know if that's partially because that was their plan or partially because the D-line short lines kind of influenced that, but Leal playing with his hand in the dirt, playing 3-tech for the first time this training camp.
Shame on me for burying the lead in the top story of the day, which is Isaac Seumalo coming off the non-football injury list earlier in the day. And he was out there, I think, during warm-ups, did not just did some individual stuff along with Broderick Jones, who continues to work himself back to full participation. I believe Mike DeFabo said late last night that he thinks that's a groin injury, and I can only speculate about groin injuries that I see. So don't ask me about Broderick Jones' groin injury. I only specialize in actual groin injuries that I see occur during the season there. But all right, and that's correct with those two, with Seumalo and their participation along with Broderick Jones, correct?
Yes, sir. Both practicing, but only individual sessions, not in the team period. And so you got more of Calvin Anderson. Really, was Dylan Cook getting the first team left tackle reps today. Spencer Anderson continuing to work left guard, but Jones, Malu making progress. Also, TJ Watt getting the day off. Tight end DJ Thomas Jones continues to miss. Ben Skoranek left briefly in the middle of practice, landed awkwardly after making a catch. I thought maybe it was his leg. Maybe it was, but also could have been his eye. I think Tim Rice, our photographer next to me, said they were looking at that, which makes sense because he left and came back pretty quickly. But good news is Skoranek finished practice and should be good for Friday.
All right, got all the health items and housekeeping out of the way there, Alex. And as you mentioned, no pads on a quick turnaround from a late afternoon practice to a early morning practice. They should have pads on at Friday Night Lights at the high school tomorrow night there, so that'll give us something to look forward to. But I guess we'll just go like we normally do when it's a non-padded practice. We'll talk about the individual position groups, but before we do, talk about the physicalness of, even though they weren't in pads, the chippiness, I think they had a few, I don't know what you'd call them, brouhaha, tiffs, what else would you call those kind of things?
Little dust-ups, little skirmishes.
Skirmishes. Yeah. Tell us about the physicality in practice today.
Yeah, for a non-padded day, there was a lot of intensity going on and just some more individual stuff than collective. You had DK Metcalf really going after Chuck Clark. I don't know exactly the context there after a catch that Metcalf made, and Clark kind of bumped him, and Metcalf took exception to something, but that got broken up pretty quickly. I know one big notable back and forth of the day came in the one-on-one period between tight end Jonnu Smith and safety Juan Thornhill. Smith caught a pass over Thornhill and then celebrated and threw the football at Thornhill, which certainly is going to raise tempers and get a guy mad. They went at it again. They had some really physical reps, and then the final rep pitted the two against each other, and Thornhill forced the incompletion and let Smith know about it, jogged back, grabbed the football, jogged back to Jonnu Smith, put the ball in his chest, and Smith was trying to be cooler heads prevailing and kind of taking it, but Thornhill just kept coming at him. So that led to a whole lot of skirmishes. I don't think any punches were actually thrown, just a lot of pushing, shoving, guys not happy with one another, all part of camp, all good there. But yeah, certainly some interesting moments for a non-padded day.
Was Calvin Austin trying to have a prayer meeting with Jalen Ramsey or something?
I'm trying to think
did I see something about that? Was that yesterday or was that today? These days are running together.
Yeah, I know there's a headline or two. I don't recall that happening today. It might have occurred yesterday in some of the one-on-ones. I missed stuff sometimes, obviously. So
shame on you! How dare you!
We're working on the cloning technology. It wouldn't start with me if that ever became a thing, but I didn't see anything with Austin and Ramsey if that did occur. I know there was one rep where in one-on-one where Ramsey blanketed Austin and was celebrating with Deshaun Jameson and teammates and letting Austin know he clearly won the rep, which he did. But to my recollection, that didn't lead to any retaliation from Calvin Austin.
What'd you say the cloning wouldn't start with?
It would not start. If they had cloning technology, I am probably the 5'7" Alex Kozora is not first in line, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's go to the offensive line to start with. You already talked about Dylan Cook, I believe at left tackle, that and obviously opposite Troy Fautano, and then Calvin Anderson mixing in. I guess at what side was Calvin Anderson mostly mixing in at?
He was at right tackle today, so
Okay.
left tackle was a lot of Dylan Cook. Gareth Warren gets some extra reps, but also one notable Stephen Jones playing a bit of left tackle. So he played, I think, both tackle spots today. Really, I think right guard as well. So he's played right guard, right tackle, and left tackle throughout training camp. Has been the most versatile offensive lineman so far. I don't think he has the feet to really play tackle meaningfully. He's a bigger guy. The foot speed isn't there. Some of those smaller edge guys like Leota have given him some fits, but there is versatility there. I don't know if he played left tackle at Oregon. I know he played right tackle and right guard there, but that's a guy wearing a lot of hats.
You know what? Let me look real quick on in my 90 to 30 on Jones real quick and see what I might have on Stephen Jones, what he did. Feels like I should have this memorized. We just went over it not too long ago here.
He may have done something.
Let's see. Last year during the preseason, he played just 18 offensive snaps for the Jaguars, and all of them came at right guard. During his college career, he mostly played at right guard. Even so, he did log snaps at both tackle spots as well. He logged over 1,800 snaps in college, and that's a lot of playing time for a college offensive lineman. So he's got a little bit of experience there, and I think I noted in my outlook here that expect him to get a lot of reps at right guard this summer during training camp. We could, however, see him get some looks at left guard as well, even though he did not play that position in college. While Jones does have some experience at both tackle spots in college, it might be a stretch to expect him to see snaps outside this summer. Well, there went that, right? So he's showing a little bit. He's showing a little bit of that position flexibility. Let me ask you about guys not the starters and guys not named Dylan Cook and Spencer Anderson. Are they, as we get closer to this first preseason game, are the guys maybe at this point to watch in the preseason might be Doug Nestor and Stephen Jones?
I think there's certainly two guys to watch. The one downside is there's only been one padded practice so far after going into day 8 tomorrow, which I assume will be a padded practice, but one padded day in 7 of them so far. So the evaluation for offensive line is probably a bit later than where it maybe typically otherwise would be in past training camps. But I think those are two noteworthy names. I think Max Sharping is one, too. I think they like him at center. They like him at guard, a more veteran type of guy that may want to, value at the back end of the roster who can come in and off the bench and probably be able to hold his own in the sense of just knowing his assignment and knowing opponents and defenses and having some NFL experience. Or something to be said about that for a group that an offensive line in general that's pretty young, doesn't have a ton of snaps under their belt, and not a lot of veteran starters, just the one in say Malu, and not a lot of veteran guys as backups. You're talking about Spencer Anderson, Ryan McCollum, not brand new guys, but not, veterans like Max Sharping. So all of that to say is it's still pretty wide open. I still look at potential outside candidates his team could add, but I think Sharping, Nestor, Jones are guys to watch.
All right. Anything notable to pass along from the offensive line group today?
Not in particular. This would probably be a better conversation for the Friday show we'll do in the morning. But, Zach Frazier, snaps were good today, which is good. That's been an issue throughout training camp. But some of the comments Aaron Rodgers had about Zach Frazier, his intelligence, really praising Frazier and kind of challenging him too as well in a good way to, about leadership and growing that aspect of his game. But really praising Frazier for his football IQ, and just kind of want to talk about Zach Frazier's outlook maybe in the Friday show.
All right, let's talk about tight ends. We haven't talked much about Connor Hayward so far in this camp, and we obviously know we talked quite a bit, I guess, about Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith and all. Talk about some of those 3, 4, and 5 kind of tight ends.
Yeah, I think Connor Hayward's been fine. Was good in backs on backers yesterday. He's caught a couple passes, mostly shorter stuff. No real downfield targets so far. More safety valve. Played a little bit of fullback as well. So kind of status quo with Connor Hayward. Outside of that, Kevin Foch, not a whole lot there. Pretty limited athlete, but he'll get some reps in. J.J. Galbraith had a nice one-handed catch today. It was late in team period. A rollout to the right from, I think, Rudolph, maybe Will Howard, and Galbraith reaching his hand out to make it. So just watching this guy make some degree of difficulty catches, a good catch radius, good athlete overall. I continue to see Galbraith as practice squad material.
How about Darnell Washington? What kind of day today for him on Thursday?
Not a lot of targets in team. I thought had some plays in the one-on-one competition period, a 7-route beating Cole Holcomb, catching over his head. So kind of showing those hands. His hands are pretty good, I think, for a guy like Darnell Washington. He's just more of that linear, straight line type of runner, but he can catch. And, one note on Jonnu Smith related to that, good athlete, had a really good stick nod against Chuck Clark today in one-on-ones, is active in team session. The hands maybe a little inconsistent. I don't think he's as trusty as a Pat Frymuth. I think Smith is more athletic, better route runner. I think Frymuth, though, has better hands. We're seeing a couple clip off Jonnu Smith's hands, not able to finish some of them as frequently as you would maybe like for tight end, but that's kind of the trade-off where not everybody can be perfect at everything. I think if you combine the tight ends, the skill sets of Frymuth, of Jonnu Smith, of Washington, they all complement each other pretty well.
All right. I want to say wide receiver for last because I feel we got some conversation to have there. Let's talk a little bit about the running backs on a padless day.
Yeah, not a whole lot to note on a day. It's a good chance, though, to talk at large, and I don't want to get into maybe some of the receiver talk, but just the offense had its best day today of their, I don't know how many practices we're at right now because they lost today, but of the 5 or 6 practices so far, the offense was at its best. Now, granted, it was not in pads, but they weren't in pads the first 4 days, and the defense still dominated, so the offense got some bigger passing plays, just had a better, more fluid day overall. I think players are recognizing that as well. But at running back, just one note, Kenneth Gainwell just continuing to get receiver reps, split out, acting like a receiver, not running routes downfield, but being involved in the RPO game, in the check down game, the screen game. Health can certainly change things in front of him. If a guy goes down in front, then Gainwell's going to get a lot more carries, but I continue to be more solid in the thought that Gainwell could end the season as that rare Steelers running back with more receptions than running backs. And Arthur Smith just had a sit-down meeting with local media talking about Gainwell's versatility and inflexibility as a receiver. I think Pittsburgh is certainly going to explore that as much as they can.
All right, we're probably going to see a lot of Trey Sermon in that first preseason game, right?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I think we'll see a lot of Caleb Johnson. You want to get his feet wet in a first game and get him a lot of reps and exposure and a lot so you can learn about him. But in the second half of that game, you're going to see Sermon and Hull, and those are probably the guys. They're also kind of related on tight end. I shouldn't bury the lead here either, to use your phrase. Jonnu Smith getting a carry today. They ran a toss play to him. They ran 2 of those in warmups and ran a toss play. So called Jonnu Smith the running back today in a sense, and it went for a couple yards. I know that's not new. You posted the clip of Jonnu Smith having that big long run on a toss play in Tennessee. That's the exact same toss they basically ran today. So look out. That could be in the playbook as well.
Yeah, I had that. I posted that one originally right after Jonnu Smith was signed. I didn't realize I'd be using it again this early, but it was easy to find. I was able to go right to it and quote tweet your tweet there. Look, they're not going to run that 20 times in the season, but we're probably going to see it, right?
How do you feel about them using it at all? Do you think it should be just completely off the table for a tight end on a toss play?
You know how those things go. If it works, it's fantastic. If it gets Todd Haley'd, it's look. I mean, a lot of it depends on how that blocking is, right, out on the edge and all. If you can kind of pin and pull it, or at least trap somebody inside, and at least give him a running lane. He's good after first contact. Do I look forward to it? No. But are we going to see it once or twice? Probably.
Yeah, I think he certainly could. It just speaks to, at the very least, love it or hate it, that they view him as physical and versatile and want to explore that as much as possible. Smith has 19 career NFL carries, so don't be surprised if number 20 comes in 2025.
All right. Wide receivers. Friends, Roman Wilsons, lend me your ears.
You've been saving that one all camp.
I have been. It sounds like he had that day we were looking for.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really good one-on-one rep in that competition period against Joey Porter, a deep ball, right sideline, skying up and making the catch away from Porter. Porter had good coverage. Wilson just made the play, so kudos to him. A little bit of action in team session as well. So still got more to go. Need to stack those days. I always talk about, one day is not enough, one play is not enough, but good to get some positivity on Roman Wilson.
Tomlin called him a versatile guy, and Tomlin seems to be happy so far with the first few days, and obviously one day in pads so far, so we'll have to see if he can start stringing some practices together moving forward here.
Let's see.
Go
Let's
ahead.
see if he's on kick coverage too. He was getting some work.
Okay.
They weren't doing a full unit thing. They were doing just individual specific stuff on the side. But Roman Wilson part of that kick coverage group. So let's see if he's getting some burn there in preseason action. I know Tomlin talked about gunner work, special teams. Haven't seen gunner work yet, but kick coverage, that's a possibility.
I think we had some Rock Taylor making a play today too, at least one.
Yeah, long connection between Will Howard and Rock Taylor. Taylor got open left sideline, wide open. I don't know, busted coverage, I assume, but open is open, play is a play, and Taylor made it for a 50-yard gain before Castro kind of pushed him out of bounds. So Taylor's made some plays on back shoulder fades. That vertical ball today hasn't caught a ton of passes, but when he has, it has been downfield.
I think you had a mistake in one of your tweets today. It said Rogers to Metcalf, middle of the field crosser.
Yeah, like that was all the replies was just like middle of the field. Is that legal? Just that was the universal response. Yeah, that was the highlight of the day. It was Rogers rearing back and hitting Metcalf over the middle, zone coverage, throwing it over underneath defenders. Metcalf in stride, jetting away from everyone, and I'll call it a touchdown, even though there was no official tackling. Metcalf put the ball in the end zone, so that was definitely a highlight. I thought the Rogers to Metcalf connection overall was strong today, although Rogers did miss Metcalf wide open on one throw, but overall those guys were linking up repeatedly. You're going to see a lot of slants in the red zone, that big body, down low red zone. They've been trying to hit that repeatedly throughout training camp, throughout 7 shots, and certainly there's good reason to do so. So I think that's going to be a weapon for this offense.
Good. That's music to the ears. Who else at wide receiver? Brandon Johnson, I believe, with a catch today.
Yeah, there was 1 in 7 shots where there's some debate, I guess, about if it was a touchdown or not. I thought it was a touchdown watching it initially. It was the front left pylon. It may have been ruled just short. He had a drop in one-on-ones as well. Max Hurl making some plays. Howard found him on a crosser as well. I think Hurlman's popped up in my notes a little bit more, so that's good to see.
They view him as a wide receiver, you think, now?
Yeah, he's basically run receiver all training camp. He's gotten the 1 carry at running back, but he's worked with receivers in individual sessions. He's lined up at receiver every other rep, primarily in the slot. So that's kind of where he's been at, but he's basically a receiver. I don't think it's going to change too much unless lines get really thin at running back, but they'll probably just keep signing guys if they do.
All right, best practice so far for Aaron Rodgers today?
Yes, and for the offense in general, I think both can apply.
All right. What about the rest of the quarterbacks here? Walk me through 7 shots.
Sure, I can do that. And again, there's some debate about that 1-6 play of team if Brandon Johnson scored or not, but let me pull up here. First play was in some really good plays by Darius Slay. I'm sure we'll talk about with the cornerback group, but back left throw, fade ball from Rogers to Metcalf. Slay played down through the hands and broke it up. Next play was Rogers finding Metcalf on one of those slants, crossing Jalen Ramsey's face for a touchdown. Next play after that was Rogers wanting Roman Wilson front left pylon, but Slay getting a second breakup in 3 plays. Mason Rudolph, second teamers come in, a little bit of a scramble drill. Robert Woods finding some space, breaking away from Slay and scoring. 5th play was Rudolph wanting Robert Woods, kind of maybe seam right side, but Thornhill, good coverage and breaking it up on a slant. The next play was that throw from Howard to Johnson. I thought it was a touchdown. Maybe it wasn't because they did not bring in the starters for the final rep. Had that touchdown or that play to Johnson been a touchdown, it would have been tied at 3. They usually bring in the starters. But all that to say, the 7th play, Howard had a blemish here. He had Galbraith wide open, left corner, just missed him, flat out missed him, a high throw. Galbraith jumped up, but no way he could catch that. So either defense 1-4-3 or 5-2, but either way, a win for the defense. But again, overall on the day after that, I would say the offense won the day.
All right. How much under center stuff are you seeing in play action?
A good amount. Again, practice can be contextual. So sometimes they're focused on early down stuff. Sometimes they're focused on third down stuff. We'll see 2-minute. We're going to see goal line during training camp. So I don't have it officially charted out, but I have a lot of mentions of that. There was certainly plenty of under center work, plenty of play action. That is a healthy component of this offense. One other note on Will Howard, and I want to check this for tomorrow and probably Saturday, but maybe some separation between him and Skylar Thompson. The two have been trading reps pretty consistently. Howard gets 2 at the end of a team period, and Thompson gets 2. Today, it started out that way, But then to finish out the final, probably 3 team periods, it was Howard getting 3 reps and Thompson 1, or Howard 4 and Thompson 0. So I don't know if they're going to flip that for tomorrow. They could, but maybe the first signs of Howard establishing himself as a clearer number 3 and Thompson a 4, as opposed to the first couple days of camp where they were co-number 3s.
All right, so what's the top storylines of the offense today? Just in general, the offense best day of camp so far. Aaron Rodgers best day so far, and then would Roman Wilson be kind of the other main takeaway from today?
The takeaway at large is the offense's best day, Rodgers' best day, the offense getting big pass plays to Robert Woods had a long catch as well. I should note that from Aaron Rodgers to Metcalf, the touchdown, the play to Rock Taylor to Hurlman, Wilson making that play in one-on-one. But yeah, just the offense getting some bigger plays more consistently, winning in the pass game, and just having its best day and winning over the defense for a change.
How about any wasted plays with snaps or false starts or anything?
I think it was pretty clean today. I can't think of any issues across the board. I think it was solid, so that was good too.
All right, let's jump over to the defensive side of football. Defensive line missing all those bodies today. Obviously, no Cam Hayward either. What do you got for the defensive line today? Probably not much.
Yeah, pretty short lines and not being in pads limits things a little bit, but a lot of snaps there for your Derek Carmins, your Keanu Bentons, your Lato Milks, your Y.A. Blacks of the world. But Logan Lee had a pass batted down today, and just that Pittsburgh has a type of defensive lineman they look for, not just in the size component that we talk about and have pretty down pat, but in the guys who get their hands up in throwing lanes and guys who chase the ball. And Lee certainly does both of those things. He's playing defensive end again with Dominique Davis back to play third string nose tackle. So, will Lee make it? We'll see. He's probably still outside looking in right now, but he certainly hits the right notes of the qualities and traits Pittsburgh not just wants, but needs in a defensive lineman. Guys who can do more than just rush the passer, guys that run hard, guys to get their hands up, guys that can impact the game in a variety of ways.
How about an update on Isaiah Loudermilk?
It's been fine. He's been running right defensive end. So that's kind of, when Cam Hayward gets those days off, as he often does, and as he did today, then Loudermilk's going to play first team right defensive end. So just a lot of reps there. The quality of the play, I think he basically is who he is. He's hit his ceiling as a functional run stuffer. Not that he's an elite run stuffer, but that's going to be his forte. Kind of reminds me of that Nick Eason, Travis Kershke type of a guy, never a starter, more rotational type of a dude. The pass rush is never really going to be there with him, but you kind of know what you got with Loudermilk at this point of his career.
All right, how about let's go to inside linebacker next.
Just a lot of reps for Wilson and Queen, and that's not surprising. They're starters, basically. I mean, Queen certainly is, and Wilson is trying to, cement his path, but just a lot of reps for those guys being available each day is certainly beneficial for a guy like Queen, second year in Pittsburgh, and Wilson, second year in Pittsburgh and in the NFL. So good practices. Wilson had a good breakup on a one-on-one session to Gainwell running down left sideline. Gainwell getting a step initially, and then Wilson charging hard, not looking back for the football, playing the man, and then breaking the pass up on the way down. So Mike Tomlin talked about that's a matchup to watch in that coverage drill. Wilson and Gainwell, two really good athletes for the position. Wilson had a good rep today. Carson Bruner had a breakup in team period. Nice to hear something from Carson Bruner. It was a little out route to Fulch that Bruner got his hand on, and Mark Robinson continues to be really good in these run plays, finding the ball, blitzer. He's been effective. And we're seeing a lot of these mug blitzes too, the guys in the A-gap. That's become more in vogue across the NFL. It's not brand new. Dick LeBeau did it. Got a lot of tweets about that, but you're seeing that increase in Pittsburgh over recent years, seeing it more this year than I have probably in training camps past.
You think we're getting close to the time of camp to give Patrick Queen a little bit of a break? Maybe just let him go through some early stuff in Friday Night Lights and then ease off of him?
It would make some sense maybe over the weekend when you have these two practices and, you get a couple days strung together. But, it's good for Queen to get these reps to communicate and be that consistent voice out there. But, yeah, that probably makes sense with the depth there to get more reps for Bruner and Devin Harper. They're trying to cycle those guys in a little bit, and both are playing, but reps are still pretty far and few between. So I think it's probably a good idea at some point.
All right, outside linebacker.
Marvin Leal, like I said, playing edge and then playing defensive tackle. Got his hand up, batted down one pass today. Other than that, probably not a ton of notes overall. Jack Sawyer with his hand down a little bit, but without them being in pads, without the O-line, D-line stuff, not a ton of evaluation there for me today.
All right, take us home with the defensive backs, and Darius Slay showed up earlier in your Twitter feed.
He had a good day, even though the offense won it in 7 shots. Slay with the 2 breakups I mentioned, the one on Metcalf, the one on Roman Wilson, and then one-on-one broke up a pass on a curl route to DK Metcalf. And so nice day for him. Nice day for Brendan Eccles making plays on the football as well. Had a really good tip away in that one-on-one session against the speedy Scotty Miller. So Eccles is a guy that's getting the occasional first-team rep as well. A little bit of rotation there with Joey Porter Jr., but Eccles is this guy I think they're really comfortable with to be next man up at cornerback, and I do wonder how that will go with Trice and Eccles, but it feels like Eccles is going to be the next guy.
All right, what about And Eccles is mainly only outside, right? Still, and your slots, your slot cornerbacks continue to be Ramsey, Beanie Bishop, and Kent.
Yes, and the occasional Deshaun Jameson, but he's really getting squeezed on reps. Eccles solely outside, and I would say primarily, maybe exclusively, but I don't want to be that definitive, but primarily left outside cornerback.
All right, what about anything notable from Trice the last couple of practices?
I think it's been good. I think he's just had really good, solid practices, stacking good days. Maybe he hasn't had the interceptions or the gaudy plays that are worth tweeting about that others have had so far. But I like his body work, and being healthy, of course, is the big thing with him. I do want to see whenever the team goes dying, which they'll do later in camp in some of the third and long situations, maybe 2-minute drills, who that 6 DB is. Is it Eccles? Is it Trice? Is it somebody else? That'll be very, very interesting to check out.
All right. Anything else? I mean, we talked about the chippiness at the top of the show. How what's going on with Thornhill and Chuck Clark last couple days?
Yeah, I think Thornhill's been really competitive and combative on the football, and that was evident today against Johnny Smith. Those guys had really good back and forth, and Thornhill was certainly willing to press guys. I mean, he went up there and rammed Johnny Smith. Those guys were just locking horns, became more wrestling match almost at some points of those drills than it was football. So I do like the spirit that Thornhill has played with, and he's certainly a big-time trash talker, no question about that. Chuck Clark has filled the alley well. I think he's had some good days. I think he's bumped ahead of Sebastian Castro and Quindell Johnson. Those guys have been pretty quiet. Johnson coming back from a minor injury. Killebrew had an interception today that came off what should have been James Pierre's interception. He stepped in front of a pass on a slant route from Rudolph and should have picked it off. He dropped it, and it bounced up into Killebrew's hands. So Killebrew making the play. Good communicator. Killebrew is, making some calls there to help out some of these young faces, these new faces in the secondary.
All right. How about some highlights from 7-on-7, 11-on-11 sessions?
Yeah, just Slay making plays defensively. Those were the highlights for the defense, but this was the offensive day. The long completions I've mentioned to Metcalf, which was the true highlight of the day. Brock Taylor, Max Hurlman, Robert Woods. There was also one play with Rodgers on a screen on a blitz from, I think it was Ramsey, and just to look at the release, just watching it almost felt like the universe glitched for a second. The way that Rodgers can drop his arm slot and just kind of flick the ball out, and the way that he did that to complete the screen to Jaylen Warren is just really unique. And I know that's not new with Rodgers. His release has been his release for a long time. I would love somebody to ask him about the history of his release. Was that something that he got coached? How did that kind of come about? Because it is, I think, really unique, really funky, and one of the fastest ever. It's Marino, Rodgers, that kind of speed. So, just watching some of those moments of like, how did that ball get out of his hand? It was in his hand, and then it's just there. It's in Jaylen Warren's hands, and I don't know what happened in between. It's kind of fun to watch live.
Interceptions today?
Any interceptions today? Yeah, Killebrew, like I said, had the one interception off that slant route that Rudolph fired and hit off Pierre's hands and into Killebrew's, and I believe that was the only pick today. Am I missing something today?
Tim had a shot of Queen getting his hands on a ball. Did that happen during when did that one happen?
I believe that happened in the one-on-one competition period.
Okay.
Was that an interception?
I don't know. He just got a still shot, and I don't know if he finished the play or not. Tim called it an interception for Queen. It's just, all you see is a still shot there.
Yeah, that was not in team. That definitely would have been in some of the competition, individual one-on-one type stuff. So I won't count that for the stats that I do, but I think Queen, anytime a defender gets a pick in that drill that's slated for the offense is a big, big win for the defense.
All right. Would you say the offense finally won a day here then?
Oh, yeah. Offense won the day. I certainly will give them the hat tip on this one because it's been tough sledding for the offense. I think DK Metcalf talked about basically many of the offense lost in pads yesterday, which they did, and had a little chip on their shoulder to get some redemption today, and they did.
All right, few minutes left here. Anything on special teams or anything just out of the blue or dealer's choice here?
Special teams, not a whole lot. They worked a lot of kick coverage stuff today. Like I said, Roman Wilson being part of that mix, will monitor his snaps and what if he's getting any work there in preseason action. Anything else? No punting formally with Johnston and Waitman today. So yeah, that kind of wraps it up.
Is there one guy maybe at the bottom end of this roster, or maybe outside the bubble that maybe we have not? Let's even look long term for like practice squad. Is there one guy that maybe wasn't either on either one of our list of 53 that seems to that maybe you've really warmed up to since camp opened that could potentially land on the practice squad? I know it's early. I know it's just one padded practice, but just throw a name at me.
I mean, Galbraith is one I mentioned before, so I don't feel like that's really a new name that doesn't really satisfy your question. I'll give you just one that popped to mind, and this is not saying he is going to make the practice squad a whole lot more to watch, but how about Cameron McCutcheon at cornerback? A long corner. He's running third team left corner with opposite James Pierre, and it's been solid. He's not really made a play, I guess, but it just feels like he's not giving up a whole lot either. And Pittsburgh does love their big and long corners, and he fits the bill. He's over 6 foot with long arms, and so that's a guy I think will get a lot of playing time in the preseason, in second half of these games, these 3 exhibition contests, and the guy that if he holds his own, I think will make the practice squad.
All right. You have painted an excellent picture for me once again. I appreciate it. And you will be back out there at the high school tomorrow night for Friday Night Lights. Tim will be out there as well too. I think Tim will actually have a little bit of access, a little bit closer to the field. So we ought to have some really, really great shots, more great shots from Tim after the Friday Night Lights practice. And keep in mind, listeners, that the serious crew of Pat Kerwin and Jim Miller are generally at the campus all day on Friday, and during their live show, where from Friday Night Lights, they play like 5, 6, 7 interviews. So we'll be keeping track of those and passing along the key quotes and takeaways from all that. And Alex, when he gets back, he will file his diary later in the evening. There will be no special edition of the Terrible Podcast Friday night because it'll be so late. But you and I will be back together on Friday morning for another regular edition of the Terrible Podcast. And then the next special edition of the Terrible Podcast will be Saturday night after practice. So within all that, you can follow me on Twitter/X at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate, SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button up in the navigational bar and follow the directions that way. So, until Friday morning, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2025 with Dave and Alex.